Yo, what is going on, everybody? It is your boy Anchor MMA, and I am back with my immediate reactions to UFC 325. Overall, not a bad card. The main card was pretty enjoyable. I actually really enjoyed the main card. But we're gonna go over all the fights, starting with the early prelims. Louis versus I don't even want to pronounce that. This was a good fight. Louis definitely used his wrestling to his advantage. He landed 7 takedowns, I believe. Yes, he landed 7 takedowns. I thought his opponent landed more. Yeah, he landed more significant strikes, is what it showed. And he landed more impactful strikes, but the 7 takedowns definitely won it for Louis. And he won a pretty, I would call it pretty comfortable decision. This made me crash out, I won't lie. Sizzle was having an incredible performance, looking amazing, had some really nice spinning kicks, just looking incredible, honestly, looking like the next Aussie gonna come up and get a little bit of hype, but out of nowhere, Nakamura just lands a perfect knee up the middle, and that was probably the first ragdoll KO in the UFC this year, because that was unbelievable. And Sizzle's epic performance just got put to shit because he got chinned with a perfect knee up the middle. And I feel for Sizzle because this wasn't even a UFC fight. It was a road to the UFC fight. So hopefully he ends up getting signed because he looked really good. He looked really impressive. But next fight is Kim Sang-wook versus Dom Marfan. This was a fun fight, entertaining. They were just both scrapping and just throwing. Marfan threw 211 strikes. This was a really good, really fun fight. But I thought comfortably Dom Marfan won that fight pretty comfortably. Not much to say about the fight. This one was the most controversial one for me because Ofili, however you say that, Khan Ofili, got dropped so many times. It only says 1 knockdown, sure. He got dropped so many times, and he got his face pounded in. He just looked terrible. He shot 7 takedowns, and all of them got stuffed. And Yiza landed all 3 takedowns, more significant strikes, more total strikes. I thought he landed the more impactful strikes. They both wobbled each other, but Ofli just got chinned multiple times. I don't know how you give him this fight, but overall it was a pretty entertaining fight, so I can't really complain too much about it. Moving on to the prelims, we got Jonathan Miskalev versus Oban Elliott. First submission in the UFC this year. Oban Elliott was actually looking really good on the feet, showing a lot of promise, and then the second that Jonathan Miskalev shot for a takedown, it was immediately over. I don't know why he didn't utilize his wrestling or grappling earlier on, because he looked very comfortable on the ground and immediately got that choke in. But he got it done in the late second round. Up next, now this is where the predictions start. And I started off 0-1 because Torres Finney, he got hurt, but he was already getting pieced up and dominated before that. he looked horrible, and Jacob Malkoun looked really good for the amount of time he had off. So Jacob Malkoun, heck of a performance. I mean, this graphic right here just shows you everything you need to know. 117 significant strikes and 27 significant strikes. And he shot one takedown and got stuffed, and Malkoun got 2 takedowns and attempted 3 submissions. I mean, this was a domination of a fight. Torres Finney looked horrible, and I'm just glad his little, you don't see that I have air quotes, but I have air quotes right now, his little hype train, because I never really liked him, but I did pick him to beat Jacob Malkoun, which honestly I'm glad did not happen. Next, we got Cam Routston versus Cody Brundage. I did pick Cam Routston. I don't remember if it was KO or a decision, but Cam Routston got the TKO in round number 2 towards the end. You know, he dropped Cody Brundage. He didn't really drop him, but he landed some heavy ground and pound, and Brundage was curled up, and yeah, the fight needed to be stopped. But overall, good performance by Cam Routston. I got that prediction right, thankfully. Speaking of picks I got right, Billy Elikana submits Junior Tafa in round 2. You know, Junior Tafa came out swinging. He looked pretty good to start that fight, like he usually has in his last few, but got to the ground, and Billy Elikana just dominated from there. His one takedown he landed, and his one submission he attempted. He got the submission against Junior Tafa. Junior Tafa is now 6-5. I mean, he just needs to work on takedown defense, or at least just submission defense or something. Because on the feet, he's pretty good, but you can't just rely on that to be a good UFC fighter. Going to the main card, I did pick Quillen Salkeld, as most did, and I put him in the parlay as less on 5.5 minutes of fight time, which ended up being a really good bet by me, because this one ended pretty quick, and it ended by submission. I think for me, what shows me Quillen Salkeld really has potential to be really good in this lightweight division is the fact that he can submit and KO people that aren't total bums. You know, his opponent wasn't great, obviously, this time, but he dominated him in every facet of the sport. He looked really good, and Quillen Salkeld really impresses me, and I've been a fan. You know, I've had people, like friends around me, just, oh, Quillen Salkeld, he's gonna be good, man. I'm like, okay, but I really started buying into the hype. Cut like maybe 3 fights ago. He's nasty. He really is, and I'm really excited to see, because he will get a ranked opponent next. Maybe Moicano now that Ortega's out, something like that. But Quillen Salkeld gets it done in the first round. This fight was peak cinema. I was dying laughing the entire time, especially that 3rd round. That was incredible. First of all, Tai Tuivasa looked like he looked like I don't even know what word to explain, but he was just jiggling everywhere. He was a fat lard, and he was ginormous, and he was jiggling around the cage. And absolutely, through 2, I was like, this is the worst performance I've ever seen. Taliesin Teixeira looked terrible as well. Do not let the 117 total strikes fool you. He looked terrible, especially it being against Tai Tuivasa makes it even worse. But there's a really good picture. Hopefully I can show it on the screen right now, with both of them hands on hips, just dog tired mid-fight. These guys are just fat heavyweights that were just jiggling around. And honestly, I think the UFC should cut both of them because this was an abomination. But Talison Teixeira barely holds on. Tai Tuivasa tried to fluke a KO late in the fight, but if he had an ounce of a gas tank, I think he would have. But we know he doesn't. Might have been the last time we ever seen Tai Tuivasa. Honestly, I hope not, because I loved watching that fight, and I thought that was the most hilarious thing ever. But I thought this was going to end a lot earlier, but I guess I thought Talison Teixeira was a lot better than he actually is. And maybe the Derek Lewis fight was not a fluke, and he's just not good. And his chin isn't great either, obviously, as we saw. Next up is the featured fight of the night, and honestly, this might have been my favorite fight of the night. Debatable, but Rafael Fiziev versus Mauricio Rufy. Mauricio Rufy gets the clean TKO in the late second round. I think Fiziev won the first round, close first round, but I think you could have gave that to anybody. It's really fun, really technical, and Rufy just landed a perfect shot, stunned him really bad, and there was no recovering from there, and he was just flopping around the cage. He didn't know where he was, and he ended up getting TKO'd by Mauricio Rufy. I picked Fiziev, and I was really surprised, but Rufy ended up pulling this off. But Rufy bounced back like the rest of his fighting nerds, unfortunately. So yeah, good performance by Mauricio Rufy there. Co-main event, Benoit Saint Denis versus Dan Hooker. BSD, absolute masterclass of a performance. Looked good. I think he won that close-ish first round. I think he won it pretty convincingly, but Dan Hooker held his own in the first round. Second round got started. It was a 10-8 round, if that round went the full 5 minutes, but Benoit Saint Denis flipped the takedown of Dan Hooker. I don't know why Dan Hooker attempted this takedown, and it completely lost him the fight because BSD immediately reversed it, got on top, started elbowing, nasty elbows, and kept going for a choke, kept doing whatever he could for that entire round. And Dan Hooker, I don't know how he didn't get put out earlier. I will give him props on that, but BSD got it done with a TKO off of grounded pound. Yeah, Dan Hooker made a huge mistake going for that takedown, and that ultimately definitely lost him the fight. In the main event of the night, Alexander Volkanovski defends his belt against Diego Lopez. I have very mixed opinions about this. You know, on one side it's like, it's a good fight, you know, I can't be mad at that. But on the other, it's like, that fight wasn't as good as the first one, and that did nothing. That was just a pointless fight, and I'm still pretty upset that the UFC made that fight, but I thought it was a pretty entertaining fight. Volk got it done. Signature Volk performance. I thought Diego Lopez didn't really throw as much as he should have, and Volk definitely had more big moments than Diego Lopez did, even though it doesn't say, but Diego Lopez did land a knockdown against Volk. Diego Lopez still looked pretty trigger shy. He didn't really want to take a full risk, but I understand why. He got hurt pretty bad against Volk a couple of times, so that's understandable for me. But oh man, sorry, it's midnight, but I hope you guys enjoyed the card like I did. Coming up, we got the fight night, Bautista versus Oliveira. Honestly, I'm really excited for this fight. This will be a good one. I'll put out a video for that one soon. But yeah, I appreciate you guys watching, and I hope you guys have a good day.